creepy and cool TikToks that will blow your mind. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's go!
Disclaimer: this video is for entertainment purposes only. Please do your own research, as these clips haven't been fact-checked.
What if Lucifer isn't in hell, but locked under the Vatican? In 1853, the church uncovered a hidden tomb beneath St. Peter's Basilica. Inside, a black coffin, wrapped in 7 chains, covered in 72 symbols, each one tied to a demon from the Ars Goetia. The church believed those symbols weren't decoration, they were containment. And each time the world fails, war, famine, corruption, a chain breaks. One snapped in 1914, another in 1945, then 1968, and again in 2001. Only 3 remain. The Vatican denies the tomb exists, but deep beneath Rome, Lucifer is moving.
I wonder what's really under the Vatican.
Did you know that Baphomet was never meant to be worshipped, only understood? The name first appeared in 1307, when the Knights Templar were arrested across France. Under torture, several described a horned idol, part man, part goat, with wings, and a torch burning between its horns. They said it spoke in silence, and listened when no one else did, but Baphomet...
Alright, this might be a little weird for some people, but the Orgy Dome at Burning Man, I had no idea there was one of these. Crazy concept, but due to the winds, the wild winds at Burning Man, it completely got destroyed, and it's going viral online because a lot of people, including myself, don't really believe in coincidences, and a lot of people are saying maybe don't build it back up. If you go on their Instagram, they have an Instagram. They're looking for pieces to build it back together for anyone there who has extra materials, I guess. And today they posted that it's actually canceled their events or whatever happens there. Not sure, but absolutely wild.
Not to brag, but our father did that.
This man was the most brutal person in the world. In 1981, down a narrow alley in the south side of Chicago, there was a small, unremarkable hot dog stand. The vendor was a middle-aged man known as Uncle Bill. He wore a greasy baseball cap every day and always had a friendly, goofy smile, but his hot dogs were unforgettable. The smell was mouth-watering, the meat was firm and flavorful, and there was something oddly special about them. When people asked why his hot dogs tasted so good, Uncle Bill would just smile mysteriously and say, "That's my secret recipe." One day, a homeless man called the police. He said there was always a burnt, sickening smell coming from the alley behind Bill's stand. It reminded him of burning clothes and leather. Police raided the tin shack at the end of the alley. Behind it, they found a small incinerator. Scattered around were pieces of clothing and shoes. They arrested Bill while he was cleaning his grill, humming some old jazz tune and picking his teeth. An officer asked, "Where are the people?" Bill just smiled, then pointed to the hot dog links hanging on the rack. "Want a bite? Tonight's batch is extra fresh."
And now Uncle Bill is McDonald's. Oh my goodness. Ooh. This is why I love animals more than humans.
This is literally the definition of evil. So we now know that 2 children, aged only 8 and 10, have passed away. They're dead. And 17 more are injured, multiple in critical condition in hospital. And this is after a man in his early 20s, we now know. He approached this church from the outside while dozens of these children were inside in their pews at Mass, and they were celebrating their first week back at school. And he opened fire from the outside through the windows. And he was carrying three guns, a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol, and he used all three. He then ended his life inside the church. And there was even reports that one of the doors was barricaded from the outside. This guy apparently had no extensive criminal history, but police are investigating a motive.
Rest in peace, little angels. Oh man.
God was real.
What's the point of winning the world when you lose your soul?
Did you know that people who are always cold might be absorbing negative energy from others?
Really?
This isn't just poor circulation. Ancient beliefs say that constantly feeling cold means you're a natural empath. Your body becomes a shield, protecting those around you by taking on their emotional burdens. Some spiritual traditions believe cold people are more connected to the spiritual realm. Your sensitivity to temperature is actually sensitivity to energy. There are those who think feeling cold means your soul has lived multiple lifetimes and remembers the coldness of crossing between worlds. Even more shocking, some believe chronic coldness means you're being prepared for a spiritual awakening. That will change everything about your life. So next time you feel that chill, remember, it might not be your body that's cold. It might be your soul calling you to discover your true purpose. Follow me to uncover more hidden messages your body sends about your destiny.
My body is always hot though.
In the 9th century, the Vikings ravaged the coasts of France. They were led by Gungu Hrolfr, known as Rollo. He was so large and strong that horses supposedly could not carry him for long, so he went into battle on foot, which earned him the nickname Walking Rolf. His men plundered villages and towns, and fear spread rapidly until Charles III realized he could not defeat them by force and turned to negotiation. He offered Rollo a duchy in what is now Normandy, on the condition that he be baptized, abandon raiding, and recognize him as his lord. Rollo accepted the offer, but custom required that a new vassal kiss the king's foot as a sign of loyalty. Rollo refused. Vikings never bow to anyone. Instead, Rollo grabbed Charles's foot and yanked him down, sending the king tumbling before the whole court. Silence followed. As the king lay on the ground, Rollo kissed his foot, and Charles had no choice but to overlook the insult. Thus, the Viking became the first Duke of Normandy, and from his line came the Normans, who would later conquer England and change the course of European history.
Rollo, the brother of Ragnar Lothbrok, you know, the movie.
The BBC just dropped one of the most bizarre headlines I've seen in a while. Trump threatens to deploy troops to Baltimore to clean up crime. Now, if you're not from America, cleaning up crime probably doesn't seem like the scariest threat. But there's a reason America is our favorite TV show, because the plot is never that simple. And so here's why many don't want Trump to clean up crime. As we've seen in his first test city, Washington, D.C., federal agents have been deployed all over the streets and have started embedding themselves with local officers, assisting in arrests, searches, and warrant executions. And according to police data, the first couple of weeks have resulted in an overall drop in crime. In fact, they didn't have a single homicide in 12 days. Now, crime in D.C. was already trending down, but that's getting into the weeds. Point is, based on those results, on Monday, Trump signed an executive order to essentially do the same in cities across America. In fact, this specialized National Guard unit would be ready to deploy anywhere across the country within less than 24 hours notice. But with the potential drop in crime that could come with, some expressed concern that to achieve this in DC, Trump essentially had to seize control over their entire police force. And many residents of these states believe that this is a slippery slope to unchecked power, because not only has no US president ever done this before, but also these federal agents wouldn't necessarily answer to local government, but rather to the Trump administration. And that is a scary thought for many. But others would argue that it's a scarier thought to walk the streets at night knowing you're not safe. So I guess in a strange, bizarre way, in America, there can be the possibility to threaten someone to clean up their crime. The question is, which version of this would you take?
I think no troops should be used against civilians. This is what police is for. What do you think?
The 5 greatest giants ever mentioned in the Bible. First, Anak and his descendants. When the scouts sent by Moses saw this towering people, they declared, "Next to them, we were like insects." Their size was beyond imagination. Second, Og, ruler of Bashan. His bed was over 4 meters long, a formidable giant king, yet he fell by the hand of Moses. Third, Goliath, the best known of all, standing close to 3 meters tall, yet brought down by young David with a single stone. Fourth, the giant with 24 fingers, 6 on each hand and foot. This warrior from Gath had a form as unsettling as it was fearsome. Fifth, the Nephilim, the earliest giants in history. Genesis 6-4 describes how they appeared when the sons of God took human women as wives. Massive and awe-inspiring, their unnatural presence was so great that God sent the flood to wipe the earth clean. These were not myths. They walked among men, and Scripture remembers them as part of its most astonishing accounts. If you trust in God's word, write Amen below.
Okay. Amen. So where did Goliath descend from if the giants were washed away by floods?
This billionaire pop star in heels is crowned the voice of a generation. What do you get when a billionaire pop star releases an album with provocative artwork, lyrics that mock God, glorify rebellion, and celebrate explicit sin? You get the most powerful sermon that America's youth will hear this year. She mocks God in her lyrics. She normalizes sin. She glorifies lust and rebellion as if this was womanly empowerment. Her songs are not just music. This is discipleship. She doesn't have any kids of her own, but raising kids is hard. Why get into all that when she can just disciple your kids and train them up in the way that she would like for them to go?
We have to stop idolizing anyone other than God, folks.
Here's why you should keep your kids off Roblox. All of these arrests that you're seeing are very recent, and you can find them with a simple search. Seems like a pretty dangerous game to me. Stay safe.
Disable the chat so they can still play but cannot talk to anyone.
This will probably become the most controversial movie of the year. A Jesus Christ horror movie is about to drop, and the plot is absolutely wild. It's called The Carpenter's Son, and in the teaser trailer we see it's going to star Nicolas Cage of all people to play Joseph. We got Noah Jupe starring as Jesus and FKA Twigs as Mary. But instead of following his life and ministry like most Jesus movies, this one is going to be totally different. In fact, they use the phrase, a dark reimagining of Jesus. Now, the plot will revolve around him and his family hiding out in Roman Egypt while he is still a child, when one day he starts to discover his inherent powers. I mean, it's sounding like a freaking superhero movie so far. And according to the film's synopsis, quote, as he exercises his own power, the boy and his family become the target of horrors, natural and divine, which also leads Jesus to rebel against his guardian, Joseph. And I'm not gonna lie, Nick Cage, cooked. Now, of course, this has led to a lot of backlash online with Christians calling it blasphemous and offensive, while others are saying that this biblical horror is exciting and a fresh take on the genre. Now, it's set to release later this year, but what do you guys think? Is this too far to make a horror movie about Jesus, or fair game?
They always mock Jesus because they know he's the real true king. Every knee will bow and every tongue will confess.
Some strange things happened during Beyoncé's last concert, but nobody noticed. You'll quickly see that her ritual-like concert was a success, and Beyoncé knows it. The show started right off with a very striking symbol. From the very beginning, there was this massive triangle in the middle of the stage. Triangles were placed everywhere, on every part of the stage, throughout the entire concert. And that triangle, it takes us straight to a night we all know. It refers to the horsemen of the apocalypse. So after seeing all these triangles, that's not all. No one caught the hand gesture she made. Beyoncé did it very subtly. Look, this sign looks a lot like that one. A very symbolic gesture, one that many artists have made in front of their audiences. Then Beyoncé clearly had fun making a reference to the golden calf, and we all know the golden calf carries a specific meaning. Toward the end, with a deep red light covering the entire stage, she flew over the crowd, like she was imitating an apocalyptic goddess. Beyoncé is the queen among all artists, and by showing all this, she proves her dominance once again. If you saw the concert live, tell me what you think.
Her riding that golden calf was blasphemy in itself. This is evil.
My name is Omniak, but you can just call me Omniak. And I have had the pleasure, and sometimes not so pleasant, experience of living on your planet since 1955.
What?
I was brought here in a spaceship, a physical spaceship that is, to your planet at a very young age. We have been visiting your planet throughout history for millions of years. Actually, we are just your ancestors. We brought the original races to Earth and colonized it a long time ago. Unfortunately, this information has been lost, and people's trials and errors here to survive. Many of your societies no longer have the connection to their true heritage. And you all have to be aware that even though I look very similar to you, I don't want it to be a disappointment. I would like for it to be an inspiration. I would like for you to realize that we are indeed your forefathers, and we're coming to share with you again the information that is indeed your birthright.
Okay, lady. What proof does he have, you know?
If the past is gone and the future hasn't happened yet, is time even real? Does the past and the future actually exist outside your mind, or is it all just an illusion? See, some philosophers say that the only real thing is the present. They call that presentism. If that is true, then something you did 5 years ago doesn't actually exist anymore. Any regret, heartbreak, or loss is all gone. But the future, well, that doesn't exist either. Other philosophers say that the past, the present, and the future are actually all equally real. They call it eternalism. They say it is like reading a book. The ending is already there, you're just flipping a page by a page. This would mean that the moment that you've passed away in the future has already existed. The past or the future aren't gone, they're just completely out of our reach, but still existing. But there is a third viewpoint that philosophers have. It is called the growing block theory. This would say that the past and the present are the only real thing happening. The only thing that hasn't existed or is real is the future. The future is still forming. Every second gets added to the universe. It is like the present is the edge of a knife cutting into the unknown. And even science backs this up. Even Einstein had said that there are 4 dimensions, not 3. He showed us that space and time are actually not separate. They are fused into one called space-time, which means the faster you move through space, the slower the time gets for you. This is called time dilation, and science has proved this. For example, astronauts on the International Space Station actually age a little slower than us here on Earth. But it gets stranger because your now might not be the same now as someone else. See, 2 people moving at different speeds can actually disagree on what is actually happening at the same time for them. And they technically would both be right. See, in one frame, a star explodes while a baby is born. In another, the explosion hasn't even happened yet. So present now is not fixed. It stretches, it bends, it depends where you are and how you are moving. Which means on a planet far, far away in space, it might still be the day you were born for them. And if now could be different for other people or other places, what even is the present time? What if all time has already existed and we are just going through it?
The present is real, the past is memory, and the future is imagination.
People are lessons, others are dangers. If you let the wrong ones stay close, they'll poison your mind, your peace, and your future. Here are 4 most dangerous people you must avoid at all costs. 1. The constant complainer. They see problems in everything and solutions in nothing. Their negativity is a weight you don't need to carry. 2. The manipulator. They use flattery to pull you close and guilt to keep you trapped. Their kindness is calculated, never real. 3. The envious. They smile in front of you but secretly hate your progress. Their silence hides daggers, don't ignore it. 4. The liar. Every word is a mask, every story a trap. Without truth, there is no trust, only betrayal. And here comes the most important part. Your life is too valuable to be shared with hidden enemies. Amen. Protect your circle, protect your peace, because walking with the wrong people is the fastest way to lose yourself.
Thanks for sharing.
So people are saying Lil Twist stole Lil Wayne's whole energy, the sound, look, and rap style or whatever. And yeah, when you watch his TikTok, he does move like Wayne. But Twist was also signed under Wayne. Wayne is his mentor, basically. So is it stealing or is it just his influence?
I won't sink your love, bro. I'll sit in your front row. I'll be screaming encore.
Now, here's where it gets a little weird because we know Wayne himself is influenced, or better yet, molded by Birdman. Now, there's an old clip out there of Wayne literally telling Twist that what happened to him as a kid in front of Birdman and others was okay. That's not normal. That's industry conditioning.
It ain't because you a male. It ain't because you 15. You supposed to, because you're young money.
Yo,
you're supposed to. I was 11, Twist. I loved it. I ain't never pressed charges.
What?
I'm going to do you like baby them did me. Yeah. I'll never forget that day.
Oh my goodness.
And what makes it even weirder is when you remember the rumors of Wayne and Birdman smooching on the lips, brushing it off as father and son. Like, that's not how most people move. And let's not act like Birdman hasn't played his snake games with Wayne before. The falling outs, the money drama, and even that tour bus being shot up after their beef.
The 2 buses belonging to the entourage for rapper Lil Wayne came under gunfire. Prosecutors say a simmering rap feud and gang tensions led to it.
So this may not even be imitation. To me, it looks more like a cycle. One that started with Birdman, but that's a whole other video. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. And if you want a part 2, comment part 2.
Yeah, it's a cycle.
What if, in a single instant, the entire internet disappeared? In the first minute, there would be silence. Messages wouldn't arrive. Calls wouldn't connect. Millions would stare at their screens in shock. as if life itself had stopped. By the first day, banks, markets, and transportation would collapse. Without access to data, everything would freeze. Cities would descend into chaos, not from lack of food, but from lack of information. By the second, rumors would dominate the streets. Without networks, there would be no official truth. Every neighbor would have their version, and fear would spread faster than any virus. And when days later the system came back online, it wouldn't be the same. New rules, mandatory digital IDs, limits on posting and consuming content, all in the name of security. What seemed like a technical failure would be revealed as a final test to see how far humanity can endure without its new dependence. The question is, could we really live without the internet? Or have we already forgotten how to exist outside of it? And you, could you live without the internet?
Life was beautiful before the internet.
Don't own anything?
No.
No
land, no real estate, nothing.
Why?
Well, because for me, my number one priority in life is my freedom. And once you start buying things, first, it will tie you down to a physical location. In my view, it's my personal view. I don't have nothing against people who are buying real estate, but in my personal view, it would be like this for me. So I know that if I buy a house, I buy a jet, something like that, I would be spending time on trying to make it nice. And
yeah,
this will require a lot of time and effort.
You know, I've heard a lot of people that have this opinion. I actually like stuff, and you do.
Yeah,
you got to
man.
take care of your stuff, and you got to make sure it's taken care of and washed and clean, and you got to make sure you got new engines on the jet, and you got the interior redone, and you got to also take care of your yacht and so forth. But I understand that. I don't really know who you are, but I know what Telegram is. I'm sure you're super successful. And I like the fact that you said this is your opinion. And thank you for sharing that with me. Let's go.
The most powerful.
He is rich but not wealthy. That's the difference.
Powerful instrument in the universe is the subconscious mind. Conscious mind is only 10%. And the thing is that everything that goes into the subconscious that causes the problem comes from the conscious. Somebody tells you something, it goes in there, and it finds a place to dwell and grow in there. Somebody teaches you something. Somebody frightens you. It all goes from here, your conscious mind, and then it goes into the subconscious mind. And when it goes into the subconscious mind, you forget it. But your subconscious doesn't. And the fact is that the servant is the subconscious. The master is this little insignificant conscious mind. The tiny little conscious mind is the master. And this is the amazing thing. The greatest power in the universe does exactly what it is told by the little insignificant 10%. It obeys everything that comes from here. And if you tell this that you're sick, it will fester, it will find a root, and it will blossom into a little tree of sickness, and it will grow. Because it believes everything you tell it. And in the same way, if you tell it you're not, you can then start on your way of life. What does it mean? Lie to it! Lie to it! Tell it lies! I really do feel good. I really feel great. You're snotting and snorting all over the place. Tell it doesn't know any different. It says, hey, what's all that noise? He says he feels good. Okay. And all of a sudden things start triggering out of the subconscious mind. This is where visualization comes from Dr. Bernie Siegel. This is where visualization comes from Dean Ornish. They're telling something that really isn't true, and the subconscious mind thinks it is true, so the subconscious mind starts doing things as if it is true, and all the hormones start flowing. It doesn't know the difference, see? It doesn't know that it's not being told the truth, so it starts reacting. So now you can see why something has to happen.
If lying to my subconscious mind is all I need, then I start now.
King Baal. King Baal is the very first demon listed in the opening section of the Lesser Key of Solomon. As a king of hell, he holds a higher rank and is said to command 66 legions of spirits.
Ooh.
His name, often linked to the ancient Semitic deity Baal, suggests a transformation from a once worshipped god to a demonized figure in later demonological traditions. Baal's most well-known power is invisibility. Those who summon him seek his ability to make people vanish from sight, a valuable skill for spies, thieves, and occult practitioners who desire stealth. Beyond this, he is said to teach the art of invisibility and also provides knowledge in various sciences, making him a patron for those hungry for forbidden knowledge. In terms of appearance, Baal is quite strange and symbolic. He is described as having 3 heads, one of a man, one of a cat, and one of a toad, each possibly representing different aspects of his power. The man symbolizes intellect, the cat agility and mystery, and the toad the underworld and transformation. President Marbas. Marbas, listed as the 5th spirit in the Ars Goetia,
Witchcraft.
carries the rank of president and commands 36 legions of spirits. He is one of the most versatile, respected for his powers over health, transformation, and secret knowledge, often described as a demon of duality, capable of both harm and healing. Marbas walks the fine line between light and shadow. One of Marbas's primary abilities is to reveal hidden or secret things, including truths about the world, people, or spiritual matters. He is frequently summoned by those seeking answers that are deliberately concealed or obscured. However, his reputation is even more pronounced in the area of healing. He is known to cure diseases and afflictions, both physical and mental, making him a sought-after spirit in occult healing practices. Marbas is also said to have the power to transform people into other shapes, a reference often interpreted as either literal shape-shifting or deep internal transformation. This might be psychological, emotional, or even spiritual in nature. Some modern occultists view this as a metaphor for shadow work or personal alchemy. His appearance is typically that of a great lion, which may symbolize courage, strength, and authority. Sometimes he takes the form of a man. The lion imagery connects him to solar power and noble command, emphasizing his dual role as both protector and challenger. Duke Astaroth is the 29th spirit and holds the noble rank of Duke, commanding 40 legions of spirits. Despite his demonic status, Astaroth is often portrayed as deeply intellectual, one of the few spirits who bridges the gap between ancient wisdom and infernal power. His name is likely derived from the ancient goddess Astaroth, showing how many once revered deities were demonized over time. Astaroth's powers are centered on teaching all sciences, revealing secrets, and granting deep knowledge of the past, present, and future. He is a master of time-bound wisdom and cosmic mysteries. Those who summon him often seek answers to philosophical dilemmas, divine insight, or hidden truths that conventional knowledge cannot offer. He's also capable of giving honest responses, which makes him uniquely trustworthy, though he is said to speak slowly and with a breath that may be dangerous to the summoner.
Ooh.
In appearance, Astaroth is striking and unsettling. He typically manifests as a nude man with angelic wings, riding a serpent or dragon-like beast, and holding a viper in his left hand. This imagery combines both celestial and infernal elements, possibly representing his origins as a divine being before his fall or reclassification in demonology. The serpent symbolizes forbidden knowledge and cunning, both traits associated with Astaroth's role. Despite his disturbing appearance, Astaroth is considered highly intelligent and willing to teach. However, the Ars Goetia warns that his presence can be overwhelming or even harmful if the summoner is not spiritually protected, suggesting that his wisdom comes with a psychological or spiritual price. In modern occult thought, Astaroth is often viewed as a symbol of dangerous knowledge, truths that challenge reality and must be handled with care.
All right.
Top 3 U.S. cities with the most homeless people. And number 1 will shock you. Number 3, San Francisco. San Francisco is infamous for its shocking wealth gap, where billionaires live blocks away from tent cities. The city has an estimated 38,000 homeless individuals, one of the highest per capita rates in the nation. Skyrocketing rent, often over $4,000 a month, makes survival nearly impossible for low-income residents. The tech boom has created extreme displacement, pushing families out of affordable homes. Streets in the Tenderloin and Soma districts have become symbols of this devastating crisis. Number 2, Los Angeles. Los Angeles is home to more than 86,400 homeless people, with Skid Row alone housing thousands in tents. The city's mild climate attracts people with nowhere else to go, but shelters are overwhelmed and underfunded. Rent has surged more than 60% in the past decade, leaving even full-time workers at risk of homelessness. LA spends billions on housing initiatives, yet encampments keep growing under freeways and in public parks. This humanitarian crisis is now visible in nearly every neighborhood. Number 1, New York City. New York City has the largest homeless population in America, an estimated 90,000 people. Families make up over 30% of this number, many forced into shelters due to skyrocketing housing costs. The average rent in Manhattan exceeds $5,000 per month, pricing out working-class residents. The city's dense population worsens the issue, with shelter capacity stretched to the limit. From subway stations to shelters, homelessness has become one of New York's most pressing and visible problems.
I thought it was Los Angeles, for real. Because of the weather?
Don't just make it to the top. They're put there. Lil Uzi Vert, Travis Scott, and Playboi Carti went from underground names to global icons almost overnight. But look closer. Uzi's name? Say it fast. Lucifer. His covers and videos drip with inverted crosses, pentagrams, and occult symbols. He's even told fans, "You're coming to hell with me." Travis,
No way.
his Astroworld stage was a blazing portal, framed by all-seeing eyes and ritual art. That night, people died in a crowd that felt more like a sacrifice than a show. Carti, he's built a full vampire persona, pale skin, blood-red lights, pentagrams on merch, and lyrics that feel like incantations. His concerts turn into frenzied ceremonies, with fans chanting like they're under a spell. Some say fame at that level doesn't come for free. The theory? You don't just get money, you give your soul. And once you sign, you're a puppet for the same machine that built you. So was their rise pure talent or a deal sealed in blood? You be the judge. If you're awake, you already know what to do. Hit the link in our bio and join our free underground newsletter.
All for what? Money and fame?
The official story on 9/11 is a complete lie. The 9/11 report is a joke.
You have the CIA following two men all over the planet and then eventually even to America, right? And you don't tell the FBI. 9/11 Commission is covered.
So what did happen? What did the government know? What did foreign governments know? There was a cover-up. Why? It's been nearly 25 years. It is time Americans learned what actually happened. We're going to tell you. We're releasing one episode per week. You're not going to want to wait. If you're a member, you don't have to. You get all 5 episodes the day it drops, right then, ad-free. Our first episode airs Thursday, 9/11, September 11th. You will not want to miss it. Join us now at TuckerCarlson.com.
Man, I want to see it. It's going to be great. Good job, Tucker.
Who is the creator of the simulation?
Some people say it's aliens. There was a professor at Oxford who wrote a paper about this back in 2003 named Nick Bostrom, and he thinks it's future versions of ourselves. So he thinks we're in what we'd call an ancestor simulation. Like if we created a game of ancient Rome, they would be like our ancestors in a way. There are others who say it's God or pure consciousness outside of the matrix. So all the religions, not just any specific religion, but pretty much all of them have been telling us that the physical world is not the real world, that there's another world out there beyond this. And so that's yet another theory of what's outside.
Do you believe this is probable, possible?
I believe it's probable, like more than a 50% chance. That we are inside some type of...
Those are pretty high odds.
Well, yeah. And, as I studied the different religions, I realized that they were telling us the same thing that modern computer science and that modern physics is starting to tell us about the nature of reality.
What if somebody or something shut this game off instantly, what would happen to us?
Well, this depends a little bit on what I call the NPC version or the RPG version. So NPC means non-player character. And those are the characters inside the video games that are just AI. You know, the bank teller or the bartender or the orcs that you're fighting. And then there's the RPG version or the role-playing game version. Those are the characters that we play. So if you and I were in a game, we would have avatars within the game. And so what happens when you shut down a game if you're playing like World of Warcraft or if you had a virtual reality headset on? You take off the headset and there's still you outside of the game. But the problem is in something like The Matrix, if you remember, Keanu Reeves and Morpheus and the others, they had those wires that connected into the back of their brain. So they forgot that they were inside a video game. They didn't realize it. Now, on the other hand, if we're just non-player characters, if we're just AI within the game and you shut off the game, then those characters go to sleep until you can restart those again.
Interesting take.
Keanu Reeves, please, if you watch this, comment down below.
Demon who dared to face the two greatest archangels of God. There once was a demon so arrogant that it dared to oppose not just one, but the two mightiest archangels in heaven. His name remains unknown, but the Bible refers to him as the Prince of the Kingdom of Persia, a dark spirit that influenced the powers behind a great empire. When Gabriel descended with a divine message for Daniel, this Prince of Persia intercepted him, blocking his way for 21 days. Gabriel was held back, unable to move forward. Then came Michael, the commander of the heavenly armies, and in that moment the demon made his greatest mistake. He challenged the very Prince of God's armies. Michael looked at him and declared, "Your reign of darkness ends now." What followed was a fierce battle. Heavenly might clashed with the forces of evil. The Prince of Persia fought back, but was struck down by Michael's flaming sword. The enemy was overpowered, the barrier was destroyed, and Gabriel continued his mission because when Michael steps into the battlefield, no darkness can stand against the will of God.
All these demons have fought me in my life. Thank you, Jesus, for standing by me.
Consciousness isn't inside your brain. It commands 50 trillion cells that execute every thought as divine order. Goddard discovered that when you internally declare, I am healthy or I am prosperous, you're not making empty affirmations, but directly programming your biology through energy fields measurable by science. Terminally ill patients cure themselves completely just by assuming the feeling of already being healed, activating dormant longevity genes. Your controlled imagination reshapes your physical reality when you truly feel yourself to be what you desire. Every emotion generates specific chemistry that your cells interpret as executive commands. You govern a microscopic civilization that religiously obeys your dominant perceptions. But nobody teaches you how to consciously assume control of this ancestral power.
All right.
Modern medicine has utterly failed by treating you as a defective biological machine in need of external repairs, when in fact, you are the supreme commander of a microscopic civilization of 50 trillion inhabitants that blindly obey your mental commands. This is not a poetic metaphor, but a biological reality that shatters all the foundations of genetic determinism and places in your hands a power that conventional science prefers to ignore. For decades, we have been conditioned to believe that our health, our destiny, and our reality are the products of external forces over which we have little to no control. Defective genes, invading viruses, unfavorable circumstances, all these elements supposedly shape us as passive victims of a random and cruel universe. But this narrative is not only false, it has been responsible for keeping humanity in a state of unnecessary powerlessness. The truth emerging from the world's most advanced laboratories reveals a completely different reality. You are not a singular entity fighting against external forces, but rather an organized multitude of trillions of microscopic beings that respond instantly to the commands issued by your consciousness. Every thought you generate, every emotion you experience, every belief you hold is immediately transformed into specific biochemical instructions that your 50 trillion cells receive and execute with a precision that would be the envy of the most sophisticated computing system ever created. This discovery represents not just an evolution in scientific understanding, but a complete revolution in the comprehension of what it means to be human. When the ancient masters declared that you will know the truth and the truth will set you free, they were not referring to a merely philosophical liberation, but to the practical discovery that we are the direct architects of our own biological and existential experience. The immediate relevance of this understanding transcends any previous medical discovery. If you are dealing with health issues, problematic relationships, financial limitations, or any form of suffering that seems beyond your control, the revelation that you are the ruler of a vast cellular civilization that obeys your conscious directives offers a real and practical way out of these unwanted states.
This is very interesting information.
Occult mystic Manly P. Hall, 33rd degree Freemason, most widely known for his book, The Secret Teachings of All Ages. What you don't know is after moving to LA in the early 1920s, Hall became a personal spiritual advisor to many artists, screenwriters, actors, and studio executives, most of whom worked at MGM, Paramount, and Warner Brothers. Most prominent of these individuals being Walt Disney. Quick side note, although not in entertainment per se, although I consider politics entertainment at this point, Hall also met with Ronald Reagan at Hall's Philosophical Research Society, which was Hall's library as well as lecture hall. Lecture Hall was his nickname. Other figures associated with Hall's teachings include Dracula actor Bela Lugosi, whose wedding was officiated by Hall, and who, according to numerous accounts, would allow Hall to perform hypnosis rituals on him during the filming of Black Magic Friday, if you will. A murder mystery in which astrology was a key tool of the detective. Burl Ives, a singer and actor who would regularly attend Hall's Philosophical Research Society, believed he was the reincarnation of 33rd degree Scottish Rite Freemason Albert Pike. Pike wrote the Masonic magnum opus, Morals and Dogma, and was essentially the pioneer or the pope of early Scottish Rite Masonry. Warner Brothers producers Cecil B. DeMille and Samuel Goldwyn would reach out to Hall for occult story ideas as well. Elvis Presley was reportedly a fan of Hall's as well, and sent Priscilla to some of his lectures, as he was afraid of being mobbed. Hall was known as the High Priest of Los Angeles, bridging mysticism with emerging media culture.
You know, at the end of the book, he basically says he made it all up, and yeah, we do need a one-world government.
Nefertiti was the first queen to change gender. She became a pharaoh, pretending to be a man. Bet you didn't know this part of ancient history. Nope. A lot of people believe that Nefertiti and Queen Cleopatra were cousins, but that's not actually true or verifiable, even because between the two women, there were 1,000 years between them. Today, let's get into Nefertiti. Who was she? She's remembered as one of ancient Egypt's most iconic queens. Her story is literally the first recorded record of any royal that changed gender. And she did this gender change so she could rule Egypt. She did not do this because she longed to be a man, let's be clear, but because the throne of Egypt required a king. She refused to let the death of her husband collapse this fragile empire that they had built together. So after the death of Pharaoh Akhenaten, Egypt was left vulnerable. The new capital at Amarna was very unstable. Enemies pressed at the borders, and the priesthood of Amun that was recently stripped of power also. They were all waiting to restore the order of the old gods. Now we'll get into this in the next video where I break down Nefertiti's life. But basically, her and her husband Akhenaten were the first ones to stop worshipping Ra and start worshipping the Aten, the disk. And in this occasion right here, in this situation, this is when Nefertiti decided to make a choice that no other queen had ever made before her. She assumed the throne, not as a queen, but as a pharaoh, and her name was Neferne Ferauten, adopting male regalia. She even wore a false beard to embody the full persona of a king. Remember, in this time period, only kings ruled. Though for Nefertiti to maintain her rule, she had to transform into a male. This stuff is mind-blowing. In doing so, she crossed the boundary of gender that was rigidly enforced in her society. Now, Nefertiti had been unusually well prepared for leadership, all the way back to her childhood, which was kind of weird. The daughter of A, and he was a powerful courtier, who later became Pharaoh himself. So she grew up in an environment of politics, religion, and art. She sounds a lot like me. She was educated in religious ceremonies, learning hymns and rituals, and these rituals connected the royals to the royal gods, the Anunnaki. She also gained knowledge of diplomacy, and this was essential for maintaining alliances. Her special passion was immersing herself into art. She loved the intellectual culture. She loved to learn. And she worked closely with painters and sculptors of Amarna. She even appears in battle images. She was eliminating her enemies, which was an honor, a right that was never left to women. So it was a big deal. All of this training positioned her not to be a passive consort of Akhenaten, but as a partner to Akhenaten in governing. And with her, they reshaped Egypt.
Wow.
So during Akhenaten's reign, Nefertiti was already breaking all tradition. She appears beside him in religious scenes, offering sacrifices to Aten, and she even had equal prominence when they performed these rituals. Unlike any other queen before her, was not confined in the backgrounds, but depicted with the same scale and authority as the king. So when Akhenaten died, Nefertiti had a transition into this position of king. Or to better say, into the role of the pharaoh.
Wow, I never knew that about Nefertiti.
Looking at right here is an extremely powerful laser capable of cutting through hard stones and crystals and making very precise carvings. This is another example of one of these very sophisticated lasers that's able to cut into these stones and just carve very, mathematically and geometrically precise drawings and sculptures like you're seeing right here. You're seeing it cut out the Buddha. Now, when you guys see that video and you see temples like this in India, in Egypt, in Thailand, all across the world that our predecessors tell us that they carved out with hammer and chisel, with horse and carriage, rope and pulley, what do you think makes more sense to you guys? Do you think that our ancestors had access to very sophisticated laser technology that was able to do all of this work, perhaps? Or do you think they spent hundreds and hundreds of years sitting there with a hammer and chisel and they were a primitive civilization that was able to build things in precise geometry? They didn't fail. It was just done once, carved out of one big stone. Look at this, guys.
Yep.
How could you possibly sit there and think, oh, good, hammer and chisel? Like, look at, how do you get a hammer and chisel in here? How would you get a hammer and chisel all up in there?
Laser,
and
baby.
The hollow parts and everything. How would that make any sense to anyone that's actually seeing this with their own two eyes that doesn't have a calcified pineal gland? Look at this. Clearly they were using lasers. Clearly they were using some sort of energy, devices that was able to machine all of this stuff out. Once again, look at the level of precision that this lasering machine operates in. Look at the precision. Look how precise it is. And then let's have a look at this cathedral in France and use it as an example of just the sheer scale and sophistication, the immense amount of sculptures and designs and geometry and mathematical precision, and still think that this is primitive. You see, all of these old buildings, they were designed with purpose, with intent. They weren't chiseled out. Like, look at how beautiful this is. Look at how beautiful the old world was, guys. This is how they built everything. The resonators on top of these buildings, harnessing energy from the atmosphere. They were power plants. They were frequency healing centers. They pleased the eye. They were aesthetic. They were beautiful. They were built for the people. And they were not built by hammer and chisel. These people had access to sophisticated technology, laser technology that was able to do all of this stuff, guys. You need to look within to find the real answers. Peace and love.
Yep. Everything we've been taught about the past is a lie.
Wait, what did she just say? Because this is hands down one of the nastiest things I've ever seen. And Oprah said it live on TV. And yet no one else is talking about this video. And honestly, I'm not supposed to show you guys this. But if you could stomach it, I'll show you. Now, to give you guys some backstory. In case you guys don't know who this is
Play the
Oprah
video,
Winfrey.
man.
Literally one of the biggest talk show hosts in the world, and has created her brand around this ability to ask thought-provoking questions to her guests. Questions that no one else would ask, but yet everybody was thinking. And that's how she grew popular and accumulating over $3 billion because of this skill. But because we were caught up in the accolades, failed to realize what truly goes on behind the scenes. Countless people have come out and speculated that Oprah really behind the scenes is cruel and just evil. And people will even go to the extent saying that Oprah works for the Illuminati. Sometimes it's obvious because of the things that she says.
I have said for years, if the abuser is any good, you won't even know it's happened. You will be in it and you won't even know it's happened.
What do you mean
and if
by
the
that?
abuser is any good, he or she is going to make you feel like you're a part of it. I mean, and nothing is more being a part of it than what we discussed earlier.
We are not dealing with the same Satan that Jesus was dealing with. What do you mean? They might be the same entity, but when Jesus rocked up on the face of the earth, the serpent had dominion because he stole it from Adam. True. And so he could do what he wanted. And that's why he was bargaining and negotiating with Messiah. He was saying, look, I will give you the kingdoms of the earth. He was bargaining because he had them to give. Oh. Yeah. So the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. He's the father of lies, but he doesn't lie in the courts of heaven. He's not that stupid. So when he's negotiating with Jesus, he's not negotiating out of false power. He's negotiating because he has something to give him. It was a legitimate offer. Yeah. You bow to me, I will give you the earth. Yeah. Because he had it. Because he stole it from Adam. And then what happens is Jesus goes through the process, goes down, grabs the keys, probably doesn't even talk to him, and then leaves. And now we're dealing with a neutered version of this thing. Not the same Satan. Same entity, but with far less power.
This is the gospel, folks. We have the authority now given to us from Christ.
So if we're all one consciousness, how can we not tap into each other's consciousness? Or do you believe that we can?
Oh.
Are you getting into we're living in a simulation?
I believe that we're living in a simulation. Influence.
Okay.
Like this. We're talking about this. Said he's
No, he says he's coming back. He said he's coming back in the cloud. I don't know, Billy. I'm going to have to check with Wes Huff about this.
I want you all to take a look at celebrities that became famous, but later they learned that nothing in this world can make you happy. Watch this.
I thought that success was all I needed. That's what was going to bring the happiness. Buying my mom a house, the fame, the accolades, having people say, yo, you are the best in the game. I thought those would be the things that would bring happiness. And then when those things came, the happiness wasn't there.
But I feel like the way that I have money kind of took away a lot of my happiness.
Why are these celebrities who have made millions of dollars can buy what they want to buy? They confessed that they are not happy. They said their money did not make them happy. Their fame did not fulfill their heart. When this guy asked Eminem if he's happy, Eminem responded by saying he's never happy.
Are you happy? That's the most number one asked question that I got on Twitter is, can you please ask him if he's happy?
I'm never happy.
Oof.
Never.
He admitted that he's never happy. There are people with tons of money, and you would think they are the most happiest people in this world. But take a look at this, and you're going to see that is not true.
Have all this stuff doesn't mean you're happy. You know, I can speak for myself.
Why am I unhappy? Okay, Stephanie Gaga, hybrid person. Why are you unhappy? Why is it that you want to quit music?
They are speaking out. They are crying out because they are in a miserable place. This is Lil Wayne. He's a well-known rapper. He has made millions of dollars. But when he was asked a question in regards to happiness, listen to his response.
Alone. When I say alone, I mean, again, when those doors close. When the lights come after the thank you, you got the homies, then you get to the bus, and then y'all boys good, blah, 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 whatever, and then them doors close. And again, so you start to think, well, do anyone actually care? Will it matter when it's all over? Will I matter? And that's always the question.
There is nothing the world has to offer you that is worth your soul. This is Josh Radnor. He appeared on the popular sitcom How I Met Your Mother, and he talks about how he thought fame would make him happy.
When How I Met Your Mother first went on the air, I ran into an actress that I knew, and she said, "Are you just like so happy all the time?" I had bought into the not uncommon notion that when I taste success, when I get over there, then I'll be happy.
Yep.
But the strangest thing happened. As the show got more successful, I got more depressed.
I want to point you to Jesus. He's the only one who can fulfill your heart. Many people are broken because they put their trust in their riches. But as you can see, riches does not fulfill your heart. And I'm not saying that something is wrong with success, but I want to advise you not to put your trust in it, because it will fail you the same way it failed the celebrities. We all have a soul, and our soul came from the Most High. Amen. And only the Most High can fulfill it.
I was very successful, but I wasn't happy. Really, really wasn't happy. And it was like the expression is this as good as it gets. That's how I felt.
So many people are losing their souls. They are literally being led into bondage because they bought into the notion that if I have the finest things that this world has to offer, in other words, it shall fulfill my heart. That is not true.
What happens is you just realize none of it can make you happy. Once you've bought everything you want, and there's literally nothing on earth else that you want to buy, know that like there's literally nothing that can make you happy.
There are people right now who would never have the fame of Will Smith or other celebrities, but they are fulfilled. They have joy. They have peace. And let me tell you why. It's because their trust is in the Most High. This is the part they don't really want you to see. They show you the glamour. They show you the smile. They show you the celebrities as they walk on the red carpet. But at the end of the day, they have to face reality. And without the Most High in their life, it's impossible to overcome the things of this world. It's better to live for the Most High, to be rich and famous without him. What shall a man give in exchange for his soul? And what does it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and to lose his soul? You didn't bring anything into the world, and you shall not take anything out of this world. The only thing that you taken out of here with you is your soul. And it's very alarming because people are exchanging their souls for things that they can't take into eternity. So brothers and sisters, don't be deceived. Watch and pray. God bless you.
This is a really powerful message, brother. Happiness is just in Christ Yahushua.
Here in this house, I pray fire over this house.
What?
I pray calamity over this house. No one will steal my child and get away with it. No one will steal my daughters and get away with it. I pray fire over this house. Fire in this street. May calamity come in this street. I am the mother of Charo. I am the mother of Shaka.
What would you even do in that situation? I've watched a couple of episodes of Neighbours from Hell, but I don't think I've ever seen someone performing witchcraft and casting spells outside someone's house. But seriously, you can't be playing with that type of stuff. If it was me in that situation, I'd be doing more than just rebuking it.
Yep, that's it. That's what I'm going to do.
Also, you gotta ask what kind of conflict was going on between these two for someone to start pulling out voodoo and witchcraft. Just goes to show you that people like this exist and they could be living closer to you than you think.
I'm going to rebuke it in the name of Jesus. And where are the police?
In September 1666, London faced one of the most devastating disasters in its history. It all began in a small bakery on Pudding Lane. A spark from the oven quickly turned into flames that spread through the wooden houses. Wow. At that time, London was filled with narrow streets and timber buildings, making the city a giant fire trap. The fire raged uncontrollably, fueled by strong winds. Within hours, entire neighborhoods were reduced to ashes. People tried to escape with their belongings, but the fire moved faster than they could run. Even St. Paul's Cathedral, a symbol of London's strength, was completely destroyed. For 4 long days, the city burned. Over 13,000 houses and 87 churches were lost. Miraculously, only a few lives were recorded as lost, though many more may have perished. The Great Fire left more than 70,000 people homeless. In the aftermath, King Charles II ordered the city to be rebuilt with stronger materials like brick and stone. New laws were introduced to prevent such a disaster from happening again. From tragedy came transformation, and London rose from the ashes stronger than before. But as the event that shaped the modern city,
just after midnight on June 17th, 1939, a crowd of people began to form outside of this unremarkable building in Versailles, which is a city in France. The atmosphere in this crowd was electric. They all knew why they were there, but even still, there was a lot of nervous anticipation. Between 1 and 2 a.m., the doors of this unremarkable building opened up, and a group of men dressed in the same dark uniforms came out and didn't say a word to the crowd, and the crowd immediately went silent and began to back away from them. And this group of men, they walked right out in front of this building, and they had lumber and they had tools with them, and they began constructing this kind of strange wooden structure. And so by about 3 a.m., this structure was built, and they placed this large basket next to the structure. At this point, the crowd had become quite sizable outside of this building, and they were growing kind of restless. At 4:50 a.m., those doors swung open, and standing in the threshold was 31-year-old Eugene Weidman, who was a convicted serial killer. His arms were tied behind his back, and the collar of his white shirt had been tucked down inside because they needed his neck to be free and clear because he was about to be beheaded. So the two guards on either side of Eugene, they pulled him forward out towards the crowd so the executioners behind him, who were dressed all in black, could filter out and take up positions alongside the guillotine, which is that wooden structure that had been built earlier in the morning. The crowd went wild. They were shrieking and howling and laughing and pointing and booing and just generally being completely rambunctious and totally bloodthirsty. Eugene kept his head down. He did not want to look at the crowd, and so eventually the two guards turned him and walked him directly towards the base of the guillotine. The executioners, they grabbed him and slid him forward so he was on his stomach on top of this wooden platform, the guillotine, and they slid him forward until his head poked through this opening at the very far end. His neck was positioned right under this huge blade that was dangling right above him, and his head was positioned over a metal bucket on the ground, which he would be looking directly at. One of the executioners pulled a lever, the blade came soaring down, and it removed his head. His head fell into the bin, and then the executioners and the prison guards, they gathered up Eugene's body parts and went right back inside of the building, which was a prison. At this point, the crowd was cheering and going wild, and they ran up and began dabbing their scarves and their handkerchiefs in Eugene's blood, which was on the ground, as a sort of souvenir. All of this had been captured on film. And so later that day, and for the next couple of days, the headlines all over France were about this bloodthirsty crowd that was cheering as this man was beheaded, and it just overall made France look really, really bad. And so French leaders decided that from that point forward, they could no longer do any more public executions. The guillotine would continue to get used for decades beyond this point, but it was all behind closed doors. Here are some of the more notable pictures that were used in the media from Eugene Weidman's execution.
Wow. Kid Cudi has come out and said that drugs led him to the basement of hell. Check out this clip.
I do cocaine. Don't do Molly. Don't do meth. Don't do heroin. You shouldn't try any of that shit. And it's going to make you miserable. You're going to be a shitty person. It's going to f your creativity. It's going to f with everything about your mental. This is the first time anybody's asked me what type of guidance I would give about drugs. There's no happy ending to that story. It'll just pull you down to the darkness, to hell. Literally, you will be at the basement of hell. And that's where I was for years, in the basement of hell, living there, maintaining, damaged and tortured. And that's what drugs will do to you. Even if you stop. That's how I relapsed. There was still a little voice in the back of my head that I was like, come on, let's try it again. Just take it easy this time, but let's try again. Once you let that demon in, he will make a home in your mind and will wait there. So young kids, if you're watching this, like, take it from the rager, steer clear, because life ain't that bad.
Nope.
You don't have to do hardcore drugs.
I think I never heard you being so vocal about that.
Nobody's ever asked me about that.
When a demon enters your mind, he will live there. That was deep. That was biblical. I don't even think he knows that. But it's so true, ladies and gentlemen. Drugs will destroy you. It may start off small, but then it continues to grow and grow and grow. That lets you know that it's spiritual. It may start off where you have control of it, but sooner or later it gets control of you. That lets you know it's spiritual. However, if you're in a space where it's in control of you right now, there is someone who can give you the key for you to be released, for you to come into liberty. There is someone
Amen.
who can give you the key for you to have authority, for you to have dominion, and that is Christ. Call out to the Lord Jesus Christ for you to be free.
Amen, brother.
Why does the world suddenly show Gaza's starving children after years of ignoring them? And why does Sudan, Congo, and others get total silence? They want you to believe Gaza is the only genocide happening right now. But look deeper. While the world watches Palestine burn, Sudan and Congo are bleeding in silence. Millions starved, displaced, slaughtered, and no cameras, no headlines, no hashtags. Why? Because this is not about humanity. It's about power, profit, and control. The so-called international community, the guardians of human rights, pick and choose whose suffering gets broadcast. They show you starving children in Gaza only when it serves their agenda, only when it fits their script. But Sudan, Congo, forgotten, hidden,
Oh man, God,
silenced.
please help them.
Let me ask you this. Why are millions of Muslims in Sudan deliberately starved,
God.
blockaded, bombed, yet the world remains quiet? Why do the minerals of Congo, the cobalt in your phone, the gold in their vaults, matter more than the human beings slaughtered to mine them? Do you know what's happening?
My goodness.
Sudan is not just another civil war. It's a Western-engineered destabilization, part of a decades-old blueprint. Former U.S. General Wesley Clark himself admitted the Pentagon had a plan since 2007 to take down 7 Muslim-majority nations.
Right after 9/11, about 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the joint staff who had used to work for me. And one of the generals called me and he said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, No. He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, "I just got this down from upstairs," meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years.
What?
Starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran."
Step by step, they've executed this script. Sudan was always on the list. And here's the ugliest truth.
Sudan don't have oil mine. Gaza do.
They live in huge, luxurious palaces in Venice, in Florence, in Rome, all over Italy. For instance, they set up Christianity. They set up the Vatican. They were the popes. And if you've ever noticed, the popes have that big domed hat with decorative elements on it. And that is from the pounded felt tradition of the Scythians and the Central Asians, the Iranian tribes. And it's because they want to control religion, because they control the people by controlling religion. So the Aldobrandinis, the Chigis who run the Vatican Bank, all these families are all related. They've intermarried. The whole Habsburg Empire was set up and created by them.
Wow.
That was another breeding program. So there's a very long ancient history, and it's very relevant today because they're still in charge. They use religions to hide behind and conceal who they really are. But they're Zoroastrian Mithra worshippers.
The largest shareholder is either State Street, BlackRock, or Vanguard. 88% of them. Well, how big is BlackRock? $10 trillion. How big is $10 trillion? Only 2 countries have a bigger GDP than what BlackRock has, U.S. and China. That's how big BlackRock is. And then you see their influence in defense contracts. If you Google top shareholders of Raytheon, BlackRock, Vanguard. Okay, let's go look at Hollywood. Same thing you see there. Let's go look at pharmaceutical. And you're like, wait a minute. These guys essentially have a monopoly. A billionaire to these guys is nothing. They got the kind of control that make companies fire boards. They can replace CEOs. They can replace leaders if they don't like. But they say 50% is a monopoly law. That is already a monopoly.
And essentially...
Sounds like a big secret club, and we ain't in it.
The next thing that happened, before I could get onto the priesthood of Satanism, excuse me, I had to get 7 people to sell our souls to the devil. The other thing I had to do, and this might astonish some of you, is I had to become a Catholic priest. I had to go back to my original vocation, because you cannot be a satanic priest unless, first of all, you're a Catholic priest. And if that surprises you, I just suggest that you go and you read some of the medieval literature. You'll see that that is, in fact, the case. Okay. So fortunately, or maybe unfortunately, I had discovered a bishop of the old Catholic Church in the city of Milwaukee who was more than willing to ordain me as a priest in exchange for me making him a witch priest. It was sort of a quid pro quo thing, kind of like what's going on at the White House these days. Except I never got to sleep in the Lincoln bedroom. But anyhow, what happened is I got consecrated a Catholic priest, and then later on I got involved with the patriarch of the Gnostic Catholic Church down in Chicago, and this is my certificate, being ordained, consecrated as a bishop in the Gnostic Catholic Church. And you'll notice a couple of other things that might be important here. One is that you'll notice that this is the ancient and primitive rite of Memphis and Mizraim. Now, this is in French, and I apologize for that. The certificate is in my book, Lucifer Dethroned, if you want to see it and try and translate it. Now, the rite of Memphis and Mizraim is the rite of Masonry that a lot of Masons aren't aware even exists. And this rite has 97 degrees. And I was raised to the 90th degree within that. If you'll notice down here, it says I was given the title of Grand Master of the Order of the Temple. That's 90th degree. And at the same time, I was made the Auxiliary Bishop of Milwaukee of the Gnostic Catholic Church. So I was just all set, man. I was loaded for bear. I mean, I had all these powerful initiations, and I understood all these powerful experiences. And this basically took me over what is called the abyss.
The what?
Now, that's an occult term, and I don't have time to explain entirely what it means, except once you get over the abyss in occult progress, in ceremonial magic, you transcend good and evil. You become beyond such mundane considerations as good and evil. You're beyond morality, and you become essentially a god living on the earth, walking, and you basically look at human beings as if they were cattle. And so at this point, I made a choice. I was asked to make a choice, because to move through what is called 8th degree within this particular system, I had to choose to either study lycanthropy or else vampirism. Now, lycanthropy is a fancy word for werewolves. It's learning how to be a werewolf. Now, I knew a couple of werewolves, and I learned from them that, in fact, it's rather a painful process. And I'm not really into pain, you know, so I decided I'd rather inflict pain than receive it. So instead, I went the route of vampirism. So I was taken down and introduced to in a church down in Chicago, which was wholly given over to this vampiric cult. And I was made to drink the blood of what I now believe to be a fallen angel, and he in turn drank my blood. And by doing that, something happened to my blood, and I was actually physiologically transformed in many subtle ways. My blood type changed. It became impossible for me to eat. I couldn't eat anything. I couldn't drink anything except blood. The only solid food I consumed was the Catholic communion host.
What?
And I lived like this for over a year. I couldn't go out in the daylight without getting blisters on my hands. I had to get a third shift job working as a newspaper carrier for the Milwaukee Sentinel. I also couldn't get very near garlic. Now, on the other hand, I didn't have the power to turn into a bat or anything like that. I think that's something that maybe Bram Stoker made up. I couldn't turn into mist and slide under doors either. So Hollywood kind of embellished some of this. But the point is, I was drinking blood, and I was addicted to blood. Understand this. By day, so to speak, nowadays, my normal job is I'm a therapist, and I work with addicts 40 hours a week, people that are addicted to drugs, alcohol, and currently gambling. And I myself used to be a cocaine addict before Jesus Christ set me free. So understand something. Addiction is powerful, and the essence of addiction is that the more you get of something, the more...
All right, Christ is King.